Okay, here I am finally. All right, great to see everybody. This beautiful fall day. It is so nice to be together with everybody here in the chambers and my team up here. Again, I hope everyone is doing well. So what we're doing is we're having a committee of the whole meeting, which is starting a couple minutes late due to me, sorry. And first thing we'll do here is call this meeting to order for the committee of the whole for the Kalamazoo City Commission for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cooney. Commissioner Decker. Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Prater.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. May I please have a motion to excuse Commissioner Cooney?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Hoffman.
Support.
Supported by Vice Mayor Hess. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, nay. Motion passes. Next, communications. Manager Ritzma.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Now is the opportunity for public comments at our Committee of the Whole meeting. Just a reminder, if you do have a public comment, the time frame for the Committee of the Whole is 2 minutes. If you have a comment, please come forward, state your name and whether you live in the city. And as a reminder, there will be an opportunity for public comments at our regularly scheduled business meeting at 7 o'clock. Seeing no one, we are now on to the work of the evening. Manager Ritzma.
Thank you, Mayor. And this evening, we have our Public Services Director, James Baker, here to present on proposed 2025 water and wastewater rates. This has become an annual pattern where we come to you in advance, actually, of the proposed budget, knowing that we have to have rates set at the beginning of the year 2025. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Director Baker, and he will introduce guests here as well that will be presenting with him.
Thank you, Manager Ritzma, and welcome, Director Baker. Appreciate having you here.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, City Commission. I do want to introduce tonight, I'm joined by Ms. Laura Jones, the Assistant Director of the Community Action Agency of South Central Michigan. Also by Amber Leverett, Director of Development at Community Action Agency for South Central Michigan. And Mr. Tom Wheat, our Utility Policy Committee member. So I'll be, just kind of the run of the show tonight. I'll be going through the slides, and then as I get to the point, we're going to kind of switch hit between different presenters as we get through different topics. Just to talk through the topics, we're going to talk about the utilities in general. What are they? Where are they? What do we do? Some projects that we want to highlight and talk about that are coming up in 2025, or some projects that we may have just finished. We want to talk about water affordability. We've got quite a lot of depth here. We want to go into some specifics. It's a program. We've learned a lot of information in 2024, and we've got to really interact with the City Commission on that item. And then we'll get into the proposed utility rates and actually kind of talk through what those rate impacts are and how they not only compare to other communities, but what they support and the programs that are driven from those rates as well. So jumping right into the water and wastewater systems, we just want to share with everybody, the overall coverage of our system, who we serve. This is a map of the water system, all the space that's occupied by that amorphous blob really represents where we provide that service. One thing to keep in mind with our drinking water system is that we provide a door-to-door retail service. So we provide everything from billing and accounting to turning your water on and turning your water off, helping you out with your meter. If you've got a meter in your basement, you've got that meter in your home, we're responsible for that water line from the water main in the street all through that service through your yard all the way to your meter. And we're a pretty big system, about 840 miles of pipe. In terms of comparison to other Michigan communities, we're the 5th largest overall utility in the state of Michigan, water wastewater utility, and we're the state's largest groundwater only supply. In wastewater, things are similar but different. If you look at that image, this is a light green image here that shows our coverage area. It's a little bit bigger to the south. In water, we serve City of Portage north of I-94. In wastewater, we serve all of City of Portage. Wastewater is also unique in that we have what we call wholesale providers, that are providers that we provide service to that then in turn provide service to somebody else. Those examples would be like Gull Lake Sewer and Water Authority, which serves 4 townships. We also have South County that serves communities to the south. Portage that serves, themselves, and a few other ones that are smaller communities. All told, in water, we have 11 customer communities that we provide service to. In wastewater, we have 22 communities that we provide service to. Wastewater is a very unique treatment plant that was designed and built to serve the broad economic needs of Kalamazoo. That's something that continues today as we support region-wide, growth and economic vitality. Our treatment plant operates very well. We've got an excellent compliance rating, and we also, wanted to highlight, the amount of flow that comes into that treatment plant. 27 million gallons a day. That's over 1 billion gallons per hour that comes in 24/7, 365. Just talking in total, water and wastewater together, some capital project that we have for 2025. Really, these are kind of like project groups, and within each one of these project groups, there's probably many projects. If you're familiar with the capital improvement plan, we just presented to the Planning Commission last week on Thursday, and so they've got the opportunity to view that, and there's several projects through there. These projects in water really led water main replacement, focusing on water reliability of the system, station treatment process improvements. In wastewater, we're focusing on odor control. We've got treatment upgrades, interceptor upgrades, and we've got another project, and we'll talk about this in the slide deck as well, but Kalamazoo Sustainable Biosolids Alternatives. That's some future work in wastewater. Lead service line replacements, Kalamazoo's been doing a great job with that. We came forward to the City Commission back in December of 2016 with a plan to do 500 replacements every year. The City Commission at the time really supported that plan, got behind it. City manager supported us with that work, and that we've been going after funding and really working towards that goal. We have now completed all lead service line replacements in Eastwood, in Eastside, in Parchment, Northside, Fairmount, West Douglas, Stewart, and West Side are all now complete, or we're transitioning out of them into Edison. We start the Edison neighborhood this fall, and we're going to be working through Edison this winter and into next year. We've got 1,300 replacements in Edison under contract right now that's awarded. That work is starting, and we just received funding approval for another 1,300. We crossed a major milestone this September 19th, when we crossed 5,000 lead service lines replaced here in Kalamazoo. And you add up what's under contract, and you add up where our funding allocation currently lies, that puts us at 7,600 lead service line replacements that will be done by 2027. We're working towards 10,000 here in Kalamazoo. So to be 76% of that goal completed by the year 2027 is certainly great news. And we're going to plan to keep up this very ambitious work. Lead filters and testing. This is a program that we've had in place for a long time. Folks can give us a call at 811 or 337-8000 if you're outside the city limits. This program is very important to us. One of the things that Eagle does require when we do those lead service line replacements is that family is on a filter during that lead service line replacement, and they stay on a filter for 45 days after that. Equally important to that is this concept that there's no safe level of lead. We talk about what the limits are. We've got the limits on the slide. Kalamazoo is currently at 6 for a 90th percentile. That's more than half of what the limit of 15 is. Michigan drops to 12, but more important than that, EPA is dropping their limit down to 10. and that limit will start up here in 2025. So it's more important for families to continue to protect themselves against lead, and we've always programmed to have a strong public engagement, strong public awareness, strong public participation in terms of lead education. We'd rather be prepared in Kalamazoo than be reactive. And if we have families that are knowledgeable with filters, that have availability to filters, if we find that the use of filters is much higher as compared to a community that has never had the filter conversation before, and if something were to happen where that community goes into lead action level exceedance, the challenge to get filters into the community and get the community to use the filters is much greater than if you have a lead-ready community like Kalamazoo. Water main replacement. There's been a lot of work this summer. A lot of work this summer has really been dedicated. Nearly every project you see out there, every project that's been impactful has been impactful because of the underground work required to replace that water main. We're replacing water main this year on Ransom, Whites, Westnedge, Balch, and Park Street. Some of the challenge with Westnedge, and I know folks are have been very frustrated with us on that project. That project, Westnedge, was a 2-year project, meaning that we needed to do that work over a 2-year period to get that done. When we went to start the project, we didn't have water main. We can't start the work without water main. So we had to buy the water main. When we bought the water main, which we had to do to get it here, and the water main had a 1-year lead time, that started the clock for the project. So we ate up the play clock, so to speak, on our Westnedge project by waiting on procurement of water main, so that when that water main finally got here 1 year later, we had but 1 year to finish the project because our end of obligation and project completion was 2024. Why are we doing all this water main work? If you go back to look at our statistics on water mains, we have over 120 water main breaks per year on average in Kalamazoo. When at that slide I talked about our system, we have 840 miles of water main in our system. Of that, 300 miles of water main is just in the city of Kalamazoo. The rest of that is in our outer jurisdictions around us. Of that 300 miles in the city of Kalamazoo, over 100 miles was put in the ground before 1937. So what are we working towards? We're working towards, when we get out to 1937, that we have made a dramatic reduction of our break frequency. And the reason for that is when we continue to have age and water main condition that is exhibiting break rates at the rate that it is, we're going to get to the point, if we don't minimize those numbers through replacing a water main, we're going to get to the point where those numbers become higher than what our staff can deal with. Right now, we can deal with, on average, about 3 water main breaks per day. If those numbers were to increase dramatically on us, our ability to respond to that would become challenged. And the system, overall system reliability becomes challenged when we have that frequency of water main breaks. The great news with all these projects and the projects that we're talking about into the future is that once we do that water main replacement, it should be 100 years or more before we're back on that street for water main. If you see in this picture here, we've taken extra steps. We've worked with the Ductile Iron Pipe Research Association to prolong the life of water main. We found that if we wrap the pipe in a polyethylene wrap, you see that there in the picture, that will prolong the life and it will prevent soil corrosion from soil and the outside of the pipe together. So we're working now to prevent future water main breaks into the future. We also have a lot of projects scheduled for next year, all kind of pulled together in a PFAS response type project category. We packaged 4 main projects together when we applied for DWSRF funding last year. We just realized that this year that we were funded for that project. There's over 1,300 water systems in the state of Michigan that apply for DWSRF funding for project plans. Our project plan scored second in the state of Michigan. So with that, we received a $20 million grant and a $90 million low interest loan in that had special terms for it because Kalamazoo is a disadvantaged community. So we were able to get a 40-year loan on $90 million at a 2% interest rate. That's going to enable us to do some major work at 2 stations in Kalamazoo, Station 14 and Station 5. We're going to consolidate those 2 stations with a brand new station at the Station 5 footprint that's going to have iron, manganese, and PFAS removal at that station. We also plan to extend public water supply out in the townships and areas that have residential wells that were impacted by PFAS, and a piece of that next lead replacement in Edison is also covered within that project. So it's 4 projects all put together in the project plan, scored second in the state competitively against over 1,300 Michigan utilities, and another great resource to bring back to Kalamazoo. Odor control, we've got this QR code. So there's a few QR codes in this presentation. We found that it's a little bit more accessible for folks. A lot of times when you're viewing this presentation, you're not the one driving the bus, so you don't have the cursor ability to go click on a link. And we know, folks, some of those links can be a little bit of a challenge to try to figure that out. So, anybody that views these online or anybody that views these printed out has those QR codes. They can go to those links, they can check it out. Really just kind of focusing on our continued investment, our continued commitment to odor control at the Kalamazoo Water Reclamation Plant. We've done a lot of great work. We've got a lot of great investment now complete in the ground. If you come out to the wastewater treatment plant, I encourage anybody to come out. We have an open invitation all year round. We just completed the GPI pipe reroute project, so there's no more above ground chambers that can provide any kind of access to that sewer. We went through with Neil Conway. We've got a little bit of a video that we did on that project to highlight the work that we've done. Essentially we've built a new sewer that's completely smooth. It has no drops. There's no waterfalls within the sewer. The sewer itself is sealed, and then it's inside where there are manholes. Those manholes, again, it's a sealed pipe, and then it's inside its sealed chamber as well. So we corrected the hydraulics, and then we sealed the pipeline, and then we sealed the access to the pipeline. So there are absolutely no odors coming from that GPI pipeline now today. And we just completed our annual maintenance on our carbon scrubber unit. So this is work that's going to happen every year to make sure that we continue to be a good neighbor here in Kalamazoo. We also just completed a $26 million tertiary process upgrade. Our tertiary process is that last step in treatment before it goes to the Kalamazoo River. The water that we're putting to the Kalamazoo River now is cleaner than the river itself. You can stand and look down in our contact chamber and just see several feet of just crystal clear water, all made possible by this new tertiary process in place. We've got more work to do at the treatment plant. A lot of the treatment plant, in terms of the mechanical systems that are in play right now, date back to late 70s, early 80s. We've got some final clarifiers that date from the 1980s, so they're time for a refresh. So we've got some phased improvements of those final clarifiers to increase performance, again, reliability and efficiency of the treatment plant. At 27 million gallons a day, this plant just has to work. There's no ability for us to kind of not worry about something, or let something get a little old or cantankerous and problematic. It's just got to work. It's got to work professionally. It's got to work expertly. Talking about biosolids, we've talked about this a lot. We've shared information about how our sludge disposal costs have increased year over year over year. We've been doing a lot of work on this subject. Commissioners may remember, in 2019 we were dealing with biosolids disposal costs around $4 million a year. Those costs now are up to around $15 million a year. And those are operational dollars in that we've got to collect them. We've got to collect $15 million a year. We take that money, we pay waste management, and we take the biosolids and we throw them into the landfill. That's not a very sustainable plan. And what's additionally problematic with that is the fact that we're taking a wet material, we're managing, storing, transporting, disposing a wet material. It's costly. over 75% of that material is water. So we're paying a lot for water, and it's a big generator of odors. To have that wet product, that wet mass at the treatment plant, stored at the treatment plant, managed at the treatment plant, and transported from the treatment plant through our neighborhoods continues to be a challenge. So this is something that last year we submitted a request for information from over 30 different vendors. We've worked with the good governance team to kind of narrow the field, so to speak. That good governance team narrowed the field to 3 technologies last year. We then sent our engineers back to do some homework on those 3 technologies to, look at things like carbon footprint, greenhouse gases, emissions, cost, feasibility, footprint, and bring that back to the governance team. The governance team meets actually tomorrow to spend all day and reevaluate these 3 processes. Our goal is to walk away from that meeting tomorrow with 1 technology to pursue. From that, we've already submitted the intent to apply for FY26 funding through EAGLE. It is our goal to begin construction of a biosolid sustainable alternative plan in 2026. Switching gears here, we're going to start talking about water affordability. So I've got a couple slides to kind of introduce the concept, really talk through some things we learned, some information through 2024, and then I'm going to turn it over to CAA and their talk specifics about our program that's in place. I'm going to highlight kind of a period of March through December 2023, right when COVID hit. When in March of 2020, we stopped doing water shutoffs, really to focus on the work that we had to do, and then to understand that, we really needed to make sure folks had access to, clean, safe drinking water. At that time, we had programs that were coming in that were paying for payment arrears. So a payment arrears is what, if you're later behind on your bill, that past due amount becomes an arrears amount. So we had programs in place that were paying that arrears amount, and they were paying it direct to the city. So we would contact state officials, and we would get them on the phone with management services. We would reconcile our accounts, how much of our accounts were in arrears, and we would just get a check. And so we never interfaced with the public on that. As COVID went on, and we went through the years, and we got, fast forward to 2023, those programs were gone. And so we had to really focus on getting back on our own feet, and then, we had to deal with shutoffs. So that's something that we had to deal with. And then we also had to make sure that we had a program in place for folks. So some of the things that we've done is we've updated our billing procedures. Everybody now gets a water bill first. 28 days later, you'd get a past due notice. And then 2 weeks after that, you would get a shut-off notice. So from original water bill to shut-off notice is 60 days. It's a 60-day duration to get to that point. The past due notice and the shut-off notice are all sent not only to the property owner via tax record, but also the service account. So if they're the same, it's just the same address. But if you have, say, a landlord-tenant situation where the water's in, say, the property owner's name or the renter's name, and the property owner may not know what's going on, so it goes to everybody. The third paragraph is, if you need help paying your bill, help is available. See the reverse side for more information, or contact the City of Kalamazoo by dialing 311. Every bill has this information to contact us, and that help is available. So, and we'll talk more about that. We did want to say that every residential bill is quarterly. We bill quarterly. But that doesn't mean we're just 4 times a year that we're doing water bills. We're doing water bills every single day. We have 22 zones. We're out every single day reading meters. We're sending bills every single day. Water shutoffs resumed this January. So this January, we hadn't been doing it for over 3 years. It would have been 4 years in March. We have staff in public services that have never done a water shutoff before we reinstituted it this year. So some things we learned. About 2,800 homes this year received a shutoff notice. We're going to show you some images on that. but about 300 homes, actually experienced a shut off to where the water was shut off and then it went one or more day with the water off. And so the kind of difference in those two data points really tells us a lot of information. First information, the customers that got a shut-off notice. When we looked at this is a heat map on the different screens. It's got some, it may look more washed out on one screen or another. But if you remember that, that chart that showed where our system is, you can see that this heat map, although most intense, is many, many Kalamazoo neighborhoods. Still the outer ring, a lot of folks, all city Kalamazoo, into Kalamazoo Township, into Comstock Township, outer ring, several more townships, City of Portage. There's a lot of folks in this group. There's a lot of folks that are essentially not paying the water bill until they get the shut-off notice. This next group, much smaller numbers, is 308 numbers. This is a shut-off occurred, and then there was one or more days before the water was turned back on. So once you're shut off, the only way that water comes back on is that you have to pay that bill. So this is very telling to us. This tells us that these customers are in need. These customers need help because they are actually experiencing shut off. And if you look at what neighborhoods are most intense, we're looking at Parchment, Eastside, Eastwood, Edison, a little bit of Millwood, Oakwood, and Northside, and a little bit of West Douglas and Fairmount neighborhood as well. So that's important. It's important for us to know and understand what those relationships are with that data. We began really sending out more information. So this is a sample of the advertisement that's in the Excelsior magazine that goes out to all Kalamazoo Promise homes. So this goes out now every month. There's it's a full half page. It's English and Spanish that goes out every time. So what we learned is that the CAA program is making a positive difference, and these folks are going to tell you a little bit more about that. We know more outreach is needed. We know we've got to connect with more families. We're also hearing that more appointments are needed, more in-person walk-in services are needed to help apply and qualify families for the program. Again, we're really looking at those 308 families that did experience shutoffs. We really want to connect them with the program and make sure that we're reaching those families and we've got those families the resources that are in place. So what are we doing? We're working with CAA. We're going to be working to establish more walk-in appointments that will be coming out in January and February of this year. We're using shut-off data to plan where those walk-in services would be most impactful. So if you look back at that map to see that, we've got some strong representation in Parchment, we've got strong representation in Edison, we know the neighborhood, so if we can have walk-in services in those neighborhoods, we can better connect to folks that are experiencing those challenges in those neighborhoods. Another thing that we're doing is on the outside of the envelope, and we've learned and we've understood that families they're challenged in dealing with pain of not being able to pay their water bill. When that water bill comes, that's a negative relationship for that family member or for those families that's got to grab that bill and pay that bill. A lot of times, they don't have the strength to open that bill, and we understand that. That bill a lot of times just gets chucked right in the trash. So the information on where to get help that's inside that bill might not ever be actioned upon. So what we're doing is we're going to print on the outside of the bill, help is available, utility help available with the number on it on the outside of the bill, so you don't have to have that pain and that negative relationship to go into that bill. You'll see it on the outside. You know what's in that bill. It's not hiding anything, but you can make that call right away. And with that, I'm turning it over to friends at CAA. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. As said at the beginning, I'm Amber Leverett, and this is Laura Jones. And before we get started, I do have some flyers here for our plumbing and water program, and my card and Laura's as well. So if you ever have any questions about our current programming, please feel free to email us and give us a call. And then we just want to also give a shout out. This has been a fantastic partnership since we got this water program and plumbing program with James and Teresa Baker over at Teresa Johnson, sorry, Teresa Baker works for me, or for us. Teresa Johnson, you guys are one of our most engaged municipalities out of all of our 5 counties, so it's definitely making an impact with our clients and the people who get water services in Kalamazoo. So with that, I will have Laura take it away.
All right, so as our introduction to water bill assistance, understanding kind of the assist eligible residents with, it really is the mission of helping them with their past due bill. If they have a financial burden, have accumulated a balance on their water and or wastewater utility bill, if they've had their water services shut off, if they are at risk of having their water and or wastewater shut off, and services for these are capped at $3,000 per fiscal year. So our grant year runs 10/1 to 9/30 each year. There are cap exceptions available, though. We have had households that have come in with much higher bills, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and we've been able to go to the state and ask for an exemption and actually obtain more funding for that household to get them back on track. As far as required documents that are required of the clients when they come and apply for assistance with us, it's valid IDs for everyone in the home over 18, proof of social security number for everyone in the home, and that can be obtained either through cards, tax documents, MDHHS can confirm those, proof of all income in the household for the previous 30 days, and then just a copy of the water bill that we can use to make sure we're paying on the correct account. Eligibility requirements for our water bill assistance. Households must be below 200 at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. The water bill must be past due. The water bill must be in the applicant's name. So if John comes in and the bill is in Jane's name, Jane actually needs to be the one that initiates and signs those documents. Applicants must live in or be moving into the home that water services are being provided. So what that means is if somebody had a past due water bill from a previous address and now they are moving into a new address, but they need to get those water services turned on, we can actually pay that bill from however long ago and also the deposit to get them turned on at their new address. For water bill assistance, from 10/1/2023, which was the start of this current grant that we have for water bill assistance through 9/30, total over 5 counties, we made 663 water bill payments for a total amount of just over $310,000, with the average assist amount being $468. Of that amount, 302 were in the county of Kalamazoo. 138,000, almost 139,000 was in Kalamazoo, and the average assist amount was right on par with about where everywhere else is in our 5 counties. Currently enrolled since 10/1. We have done 53 payments successfully, and that's all the way through our payment system for 24,000, almost 25. We're still sticking with that same average assistance payment. Stays about right with $465.60. 21 of those have been in Kalamazoo with almost $9,000 already since 10/1. Here is a copy of our flyer, digital copy. The QR code typically will take you to our walk-in days. If somebody walks up and scans that code, it'll take them right to our website that lists whatever walk-in days are available. We're looking to get more walk-in days in the calendar throughout Kalamazoo County and trying to hit those same areas where we're seeing the highest need. So if anybody knows of any office space we can borrow here and there, we would love to make sure we're making it out throughout the city and not just one localized area. As far as plumbing assistance, we're able to assist eligible households with metered water and or wastewater. So it's a plumbing assistance grant, but they have to be connected to some sort of water services, whether it be wastewater or both. They do have to have some sort of metered account with a municipality that they're paying on. It's to assist with needed repairs or improvements to their in-home plumbing, And that the goal of that is to provide water affordability by addressing leaks in plumbing that raises people's water bills if they cannot afford to fix those, but it's also to provide access to water throughout the home. Those services are capped at $9,000 for a lifetime. That's through the life of this grant. However, the cap exceptions still stand. We've ran into many homes that needed much more than $9,000 worth of repairs, and we've been able to obtain more funding for that as a case-by-case basis. The required documents for plumbing assistance is very close to our water assistance program. It's the IDs, the social security numbers, proof of income for 30 days is the same. Copy of the water bill just proves that they're on a metered account. And then they do have to provide proof of home ownership, so deed, title. However, this program can assist renters. So if we have somebody who's in there who's renting, it can also assist them. It is based on the renter's income, not the landlord's income. The landlord just has to sign an agreement with us that they're aware that we're making updates to their home and they are okay with that, and provide proof that they're the owner of the home so that we can proceed. Eligibility requirements are also very close to our water bill assistance. So it's 200% of the federal poverty level. Applicant must live in the home that the plumbing repairs or improvements are being done at, and the household must score at least 1 priority point. If you go to the next slide. I have included a list of the eligibility requirements for the plumbing, the priority points, and it's things like, do you have access to running water? Are you manually turning your water on and off at the main valve? Do you have access to hot water? Are you able to use the toilet in your home? Are you able to take a shower or bath in your home? Are you able to wash your hands in your bathroom sink? Can you use your laundry tub? Are you able to use your kitchen sink to wash your dishes? Does wastewater regularly drain from your home, or do you have an active leak anywhere in your home? And that kind of addresses the mass of the conditions that we're seeing in these homes. Currently enrolled, this program did not start until April 1st of this year, so it was a half-year program year for us to start. In total, we had 81 people enrolled in the program with 51 jobs completed. That was at $461,000, and the average job cost was around almost $5,700. Of those, Kalamazoo County has had 15 enrolled in the program with 7 jobs completed, $108,000. Just over 108, and they're at the average job cost in Kalamazoo is actually $7,200. Here's our plumbing repair assistance. Again, we do have the QR code for walk-in days. And so for both of these programs, there's something called categorically eligible. So somebody can actually, there's 2 ways to determine eligibility as far as income. We can do income computation, where they're giving us that 30 days of income, or if they're receiving certain other types of assistance, that would auto-qualify them, and we no longer need to do the income qualifications. So if they are enrolled in temporary assistance for needy families, anybody in the home receives SSI, supplemental security income, if they've received an approved SER in the last 30 days preceding their application, if they are currently receiving food assistance benefits, or if they're eligible for weatherization assistance program, we no longer need to do the income calculations. So we've had people who have come in and their household income has been above that 200%. We've been able to categorically eligible them. The application process files, the first point of contact is them calling our main line, and then our front desk staff asks them a series of questions. We try to schedule them an appointment when we can, but we also offer a virtual option when appointments are fully booked. So we have started a wait list. If we can't get them in, we take their name, number, and make sure that we're reaching back out, but they also have the option to do things virtually if they're capable and able, so that we're trying to get assistance as quickly as possible. We do know that appointments are limited and the need is much higher than any that we would be able to serve face-to-face, so we're trying to catch as many people as we can. This is the current federal poverty guidelines. So the program runs the 200%, so the far right is going to be those income, but we still ask anybody to come in and apply to see if we can get even categorically eligible. We don't want them to see this and think, oh, I won't qualify. Please come in, let us work with you and try.
Just a couple things that James touched on a little bit is available appointments. So she did mention the virtual appointments are available, especially for our water assistants, but we've also been hiring additional staff. We have an office at the Douglas Community Association as well as our Westnedge building. We're looking to maybe expand at the Douglas to be able to run 2 calendars, 2 staff members there every week, and take on additional appointments, so we can keep getting people through these programs. But if you have any questions, please feel free to call us and we can walk you through anything.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you to CAA for coming out tonight to help with this presentation. Just one last plug for our water affordability programs. We're here tonight talking to the City of Kalamazoo. This is the City of Kalamazoo, but we also did want to highlight every one of those communities we serve. So if your name's up there on that list and you're watching this or you have access to this, please reach out to CAA. Please reach out for these programs. These programs are designed to help Kalamazoo utility ratepayers. Getting right into the rates, we talked about the programs, we talked about some capital initiatives, some specific projects. We spent a lot of time with Stantec working through the drinking water rate. The drinking water rate recommendation is actually a little lower this year than what we talked about last year. That rate impact is about $2 a month for a typical in-city user, at about $2 a month for a typical out-city user as well. For wastewater rates, the city rate impact would be about $3 a month, and township rate about $3 a month as well. So water and wastewater put together, what you'll see in your water bill would be a monthly increase of about $5 a month for the package of rate increases that we're proposing this year. One thing we did want to know and talk about with wastewater, the wastewater rates are scheduled to equalize between the city and out-city customers by 2030. This is very similar to what we went through with water when we had a glide path to equalize in-city and out-city rates in water. We're working through the master agreement with several of our townships and interjurisdictional partners with wastewater, and we're seeing a lot of the same things in terms of the regional system. There's a lot of desire to go to a equalized rate basis for a lot of the simplification it does within rate making. There's certain things that drive rates in terms of what would drive in-city rate increase or what would drive an out-city rate increase, and sometimes these have conflicting goals in terms of supporting regional growth and supporting the region at large. There's also, through discovery, we discovered that the city of Kalamazoo, if we created a pie chart for the wastewater system in terms of the revenue base, we see there's about 25% of the revenue base of the wastewater systems in city customers. About 25% of the revenue base is township and other municipality customers. We also have about another 25%, which are industries and municipalities. So in total, there's about 25% of the overall rate that's just city customers and retail customers. So our township customers, retail as well. We looked at the line item cost for collections. Our current rate had been charging 100% of the collection costs to those outside users with the benefit for the city. Another factor on the utility rate basis is that when there's investment in the city and city-owned infrastructure, which is the wastewater plant, that investment has to come up front from the system owner, which would be the wastewater treatment plant. So we looked at those big investments that we're making in wastewater. So those would disproportionately impact Kalamazoo ratepayers in that Kalamazoo ratepayers would have to pay for that up front, and then on the backside, the first 20 years of that capital investment, and then the backside, the waning years of that capital depreciation is then charged to the township. So this is confusing things that we're all trying to understand, all these dials moving all over the place, and it would simplify things and benefit both city and out city equally if we just had an equalized rate approach and we provided equal service for equal rates, the same concept that we did in water. So we wanted to make sure we're talking through that. The commission understands those concepts. Here's a comparison. This is a 2024 comparison. Shows where we're at today for wastewater, where we're proposing to go for wastewater as we compare to a bunch of other Michigan communities. Just kind of bringing this back in terms of total cost, we're neck and neck around $5 for a typical bill for a monthly bill for user cost. And the benefit of all the work that we're doing, all the investment we're making in the system, really a great time in terms of infrastructure investment. If we look at combined monthly water and wastewater bill together, this is the bill that people pay. Most folks have water and wastewater together. Most everybody in the city that receives a bill receives a water and wastewater together bill. So you see where you've got Wyoming, Kalamazoo, Muskegon. I'm on the far left part of the chart. That's kind of where Kalamazoo is next to Wyoming in terms of the lowest in the state. With the proposed rate increases going into effect, we would move a little bit, and that Wyoming and Muskegon would be lower than Kalamazoo, and Kalamazoo would be the third lowest in the state. So we'd go from second lowest in the state to third lowest in the state in terms of relative community comparisons. We wanted to take a look back in time. We started really accelerated infrastructure investment about 7 years ago. And so we wanted to look at, go back 7 years and see where we were at then. And you see that we were still kind of the same thing. We were the lowest in the state with Wyoming and Muskegon, our partners in second and third place. And then we make a rate increase and we move to being third place in there, first and second. So really, Kalamazoo's perspective or Kalamazoo's relationship with respect to other peer communities has not changed in over 7 years, even though our investment continues, accelerated investment in infrastructure, in all the work that we've talked about. And we've got a lot of great progress with that work. In fact, we've starting across some major milestones with that work this year. But overall, we're still in the same overall perspective with respect to our peer communities. Those rate increases, what do they mean? It's the $5 average impact per customer. It's due in part to the 5% system rate increase in water and about a 12% system rate increase in wastewater. That water rate is lower than what we had talked about last year, and that really is due to having a lot of cash on hand and making a lot of strong investments in capital to where our cash is actually helping to work for us in a positive business sense for the water utility, so that we were able to kind of lower the arc of the rate increase in water. We expect the same trajectory in wastewater. We're just about 5 years out on that. So as we look out towards the horizon on wastewater, we look out towards around 2030, we see that the water or wastewater rate increases will really start to drop off. And that's due in part to a lot of positive improvements that we're making in capital, and then having kind of that investment, the utility benefit work for you, and then those positive changes that we plan to make with biosolids program, having that program in place to reduce those monthly costs. We did want to highlight a lot of success for grants coming back to the state of Michigan. Here's a photo of Mr. Tom Perez that came to Kalamazoo here to celebrate a lot of great work in Kalamazoo. Over $40 million of grant has come to Kalamazoo that's not in rates, and a lot of that success in water And while we're recommending a 5% rate increase, not a 7% increase, is due in part to a lot of these grant programs and using the state drinking water and state clean water revolving loan funds to help build this capital. We talked about community engagement. We've been working with the Utility Policy Committee for several years now to help recommend water CIP. They do a lot of great work on that. I'm going to this time invite Mr. Tom Wheat up to the podium to join me here. And I'll also talk about our stakeholder presentations that we delivered to really a wastewater focus group comprised of contractual municipalities, township, and industrial users. That was on October 30th. If you're interested in that, and that is really a very deep dive, about a 2-hour presentation just in wastewater, that's available on the Public Media Network. You can access that and watch that and learn a lot about the wastewater program. We talk a little bit more specifics about that wastewater rate arc and kind of how that those impacts over time kind of flatten out and equalize for the city and things happening in 2030 and beyond. Mr. Wheat?
Welcome, Mr. Wheat. Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Again, my name is Tom Wheat. I sit on the Utility Policy Committee, the UPC. The Utility Policy Committee was set up as a part of the contract between the city and the customer communities and the 2021 water contract. And one of our duties is to review, analyze, and make recommendations on the proposed rates that Stantec, which is the rate consultant for the water side, makes. And so we've been working out with them for the past several months. We have one of our members is a forensic accountant, so he understands numbers very well. He worked with city staff and took a deeper dive with Stantec in some much more detailed meetings, but then came back and we had discussions at the UPC about the rates. And the bottom line is the UPC took out all that information and we unanimously support the rate recommendations in the Stantec report. So that's all I have. Support everything that James does on the water side. Like he said, we are continuing. I'm involved in the wastewater negotiations as well, and so we're very appreciative of the city and their efforts, not only on the water side, but continuing forward on the wastewater side. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wheat. Just talking about some next steps. We're in the final stretch here, folks, so we should be wrapped up pretty soon and on to commissioner comments and questions, but we did want to kind of paint the picture going forward. We plan to bring back via ordinance for first reading water and wastewater rates on Monday, November 18th, so that's coming up pretty quickly here. And then city commission action would be requested on Monday, December 2nd. That would be on track then to have those rates go into effect on January 1st. So this is all kind of leading up to that recommendation. And that concludes our slide. So we're happy to engage with and answer any questions commissioners may have.
Thank you again, Director Baker. Appreciate that. And thank you, Teresa Johnson, for being here representing as well. Commissioners, questions? Yes, Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Director Baker, for this great presentation. I love the fact that we have such a robust affordability program to help supplement some of these necessary rate increases that we are proposing here. I was also relieved to see that shutoffs were down, shutoffs of at least one day since 2019. I had a couple questions as it pertains to those. One, do we keep any metrics on long-term shutoffs, i.e. a week or longer? And then we'll start there. I'll get to the next one.
Okay, yes, yeah, we do. So, there is, a lot of great folks that are helping us out with this work. I do want to give a shout out to our IT director, Mr. Tim Du Bois, who's, really helped us to build the backbone of all these great systems that help us do the work that we do. I also want to give a shout out to Ben Clark. He's in the IT department, works under Mr. Tim Du Bois. And then also Mr. Trevor Ferguson, who works in public services, is kind of driving the bus from our end, but is connecting up with those folks. So we've got a lot of programs that, kind of manage the billing side of the house, if you will, the financial side, and that's different from our work order side. So these things live in two different spaces. We also have kind of a third category, which is our radio calls, and that's when we're actually out doing the work that we do. A lot of our movements are tracked via radio calls, and that's true for hydrant flushing operations and shutoff operations. So when we're doing hydrant operations, things are happening so quick that we're not doing work orders. We're calling in and out on the radio, and dispatch is kind of tracking those movements for us. The same thing is happening with water shutoffs when we're out in the field doing shutoffs. And when I say shutoffs, I'm talking about the whole program, which includes turn-ons as well, just that program. A lot of that work is captured in radio calls. So, Mr. Ferguson, Trevor Ferguson, has done a great job to work with RME within public services to try to understand the work orders and understand the radio call logs and get this data that we see. We also have some further data sets we didn't share publicly in the presentation. We do have a data set that has 9 households on it that is of concern to us based on the duration of shutoffs and the frequency of shutoffs. So we're working through that list right now internally. I tell you, it's not just City Kalamazoo. It has City Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo Township, Comstock Township, and City of Parchment on it. So we're going to be planning to share that with other folks and other agencies that can help with, reaching out to folks and trying to make sure. It's our goal to make sure those folks have resources. And so I think you're certainly onto something, is that we're getting data, we're collecting data, we're analyzing data, but we've got to push it to the next step to make sure we're using that data for positive change to connect folks to resources, and we're doing that.
That's good to hear. Thank you. And then secondly, this might pertain more to the good folks here. I wanted to know, how long is your current wait list for assistance? And then if you guys were able to notice any trends, throughout the year as far as when the wait list gets most congested, like whether that's when bills are approaching or beginning of a cycle, end of a cycle.
Yeah, so we typically try to stay off of a wait list. If we're going to do a virtual for a client, we try to be able to send that virtual to them immediately. We were just recently on one just because we had a giant influx. We did a text blast through DHHS, which really increased our call volume. And that's where MDHHS actually sends text messages to people that would be eligible for our assistance, just with a clip of call community action with any water needs. We were calling people back within a week, typically, when we did have the wait list. We're actually just last week were able to close that wait list, and we're back to sending that virtual right away. We do see an uptick in billing, so it really depends. Like, we may see an uptick in City of Battle Creek this week because we know their billing went out and their shutoff notices went out, and then all of a sudden we'll see City of Kalamazoo, and it does jump around because we do serve 5 counties, so I can't pinpoint something right to City of Kalamazoo or Kalamazoo County, but we definitely notice those shutoff notices go out. We all of a sudden get a giant influx, which if they are calling us right away with a shutoff, even if we had a wait list, that gives us plenty of time to get with them, get their application done, and stop that shutoff. So once we're committing to that amount and we know we'll be able to help, we contact the water provider and say, okay, we are able to help with this amount, and they put a hold on the account. So they don't actually have to receive our payment quite that fast, but they know that they did apply and they're eligible for services.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Thanks.
Thanks. Good questions. Other questions? Yes, Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you so much. Director Baker knows this is my favorite, not favorite subject. And I feel like Teresa and Valletta are here to have his back. So I'm glad y'all here. I'm not going in. I'm not going in. One question I had was, for 2025, how much have we allocated for the City of Kalamazoo residents that CAA will be overseeing for assistance?
Yeah, I'll let CA try to attempt to answer that if they can.
So for our allocation, we get one bulk amount. It is not split up by service area.
Okay.
So we just take it as the applications are coming in. I do look at, when I'm looking at data, our bigger counties, how many we're serving, if we need to do more outreach. Kalamazoo is our biggest county, so I would like to see those numbers increase, just looking at the data. So that means more outreach. So that's something we're focusing on with sponsored Facebook posts, doing the walk-ins. We focus a lot of our walk-ins in the Kalamazoo area. And just word of mouth has been fantastic. So if you could take these flyers and get those out as well, that would help us get our numbers up in Kalamazoo.
Thank you for that. And then my last question is, are you leveraging these dollars, our county dollars, up to DHS to get more funding into the counties, and not just Kalamazoo, but the surrounding counties that you serve as well?
Like with the SER, like DHS, do you want to talk a little bit about how we...
So MDHS has their SER that they can assist. And for water, I think the cap amount for that currently is $350 per year. And they can only receive that assistance once per year. So if they use $50 of it, it doesn't mean they have $300 left to use. It's a one-time, and they've gone back to that just recently, even with their electric and gas assistance we're seeing as well. So a lot of times it is a point of referral for them. They know that we're there, so they'll refer them back to us. We've worked with them. We do take that amount off. We do ask that they try to come to us as much as possible and save that for when they really need it, because we know if they're not going to use the full amount, they can't get that assistance again. It's once per year. But it is working really well, our relationship with them, and the text messages, they're aware of our programs, and we do refer to them sometimes for other services that we're not able to assist with, but we try to assist with the whole amount. And that being said, they can come back to us 10 times in a year, 20 times in a year, up to that cap amount, whereas DHS, they can only go one time.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I did say my last question, but my last question. In reference to meeting with families and heads of households, are you doing any kind of financial literacy? Like, how are you assisting the family so the frequency of them coming back is lessened?
So we are trying to bring back financial literacy. With COVID and everything, it kind of stopped a lot of things that we were doing face-to-face with our clients. So as we've gotten, the COVID monies have gone away, kind of that rush of getting that out the door has gone away. We are now looking back at how we can bring back our financial literacy, work with our clients a little more one-on-one. A lot of our grants very much dictate you need to serve this many clients. We're getting them in and out, getting them out of crisis, which is great. We need to be doing that, but we're really looking right now how we can partner, how we have our Angela Anderson, she's certified in our financial empowerment, how we can bring that back with her and start working with our clients a little deeper with the payments. So that is something we are working on right now.
Thank you so much.
One thing we are doing right now, and we never stopped doing this throughout COVID, is when they come in, whether it be virtual walk-in or a face-to-face 1-hour appointment with one of our intake staff, they complete what's called a client needs assessment. So we're looking at the household as a whole. Do you have children who are under the age of 5 and child care is an issue? Do you have a senior in your home that's over 60? Are you a homeowner? Are you a renter? Do you have high bills? And we really try to make referrals, whether it's a program that we offer at the time or whether it's a program we know another agency offers based on the client's needs. And when they walk out, they don't just walk out with the bills paid. They walk out with at least 3 points of contact afterwards that might be able to serve them of another need, of any other need they may have. So we do try to help them further than just a bill payment.
Commissioner Decker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'll be using this. My
All right.
microphone is not working today. Thank you, Director Baker, for all of that great information. I was kind of doing some comparisons to some of the presentations that we had last year to the ones that we have this year. And you've already answered a lot of my questions that I had, so thank you for that. One of the questions that I had is we had talked about being able to eventually get to monthly billing. And I know that we have something within our regular agenda in our business meeting today to talk about the smart meters. Can you kind of recap where we are within the smart meters, about how many more that still need to be placed within the city and the county and the areas that we serve?
Yes, so I can take it from here. You're right. We have got to hit a certain critical mass with smart meters before we can conceptualize going to monthly billing. So there is a fair amount of things that have to happen back office. And we talked about we're already every single day reading meters, every single day sending bills. So there's some things that would have to happen to kind of restructure some of that. We are beginning to work on that, and that's something that we're going to be coming forward to City Commission with, likely in January or February, to give the commission a heads up and give the community a heads up that we're going to start to move some of these billing zones around a little bit to help support that. This is a long road. It's not going to be that we, move some billing zones around and that, a week later we're on monthly billing. So it's still going to be, I would say, still a several year road for us to get there. That is a plan. So there's that structural work that we've got to do. There's the field work we've got to do, talking about moving some of those zones around. And then from the smart meters themselves, we've got about 46,000 meter installations in the city. We've completed about 7,500 smart meter installations. In 2024, we started packaging smart meter replacement with lead service replacement. So all those lead service projects that we're going to be doing in Edison, both this year and next year, those are all going to be smart meter projects as well. We're also partnering with Gull Lake Sewer and Water Authority to have them go out and install smart meters in Richland Township and in Richland Village to help kind of build towards a cooperative utility agreement where they can then use those meters to read their sewer bills because they are outside sewer provider, and then they can give us the information. We're also working with Western Michigan University on smart meter replacements, and we've got some smaller scope projects that city crews are doing to going out and doing smart meter replacement. So it's a little too early to be able to paint a date, on the wall, so to speak, but it's something that we're really working towards. So we kind of got, we've got to move the back office and the billing zones and that sort of thing to get us to where we're kind of building the framework for that. At the same time, we're accomplishing more and more smart meter installs, and we're going to hit a certain point where we've crossed a critical mass to where it's a tipping point that we could start up a program like monthly billing, and then probably have certain zones that would go to those first, and then we would have a period where we're kind of working out the kinks and working through everything on that. But you're right on. You're right on point in that as a utility, this is something that we've had a lot of internal discussions about, is that monthly billing is a point of water affordability. With quarterly billing, we're looking at 3 months of, bills before you get that bill. And it can be a surprise when it comes. And billing monthly really helps folks. It really helps us support and reinforce the concept of a monthly budget, and it can really help keep folks on target with where they need to be.
Thank you for that. And I think I have a few questions here. Sorry. So within the presentation today, I believe you said the average rate of the water going up to about 5%.
Yeah, 5% for water in terms of a percent. But we, really like to communicate, what does that mean for your bill? And that's about $2. So it's about $2 a month for a bill. And that's 4,500 gallons a month usage, which would be about 51.3 cubic meters.
Okay, the reason I bring that up is, when we had our, presentations from last year, we were thinking it was going to be 6% over, so it's actually gone down 1% from what they projected. So I think that's awesome. We're not raising the rates to what we thought it was. It's actually what it is. It's 5%. It's 1% less. So that is a good thing there. And I did want to talk about something too. So in 2025, individuals that are below the federal poverty line are going to begin to be cost burdened. And that was within our own calculations that we talked about last year. Federal poverty line of 100%, $30,000. Beginning in 2025, it'll be 1.76%, and that continues to grow all the way until 2032, with it not hitting 130% until 2029. So I think some of these next questions with that information is going to be more for, I think, community action. So that would be Miss Amber and Laura.
Yeah. Can I cheat real quick and look at your chart?
Sure. I don't have that with me, no, but I did that last night. Hello, thank you. Thank you for the work that you guys do within the city, also city and the counties, with helping individuals pay for water, which is a need that everyone must have. So a couple of questions for you guys. So is Community Action, is that an independent agency?
So Community Action is actually a national nonprofit. So there's probably about 1,000 community action agencies across the United States. It's actually our 60th anniversary this year. So there are 28 community action agencies in the state of Michigan alone. Some of them cover 1 county, some of them cover 10 counties. We cover 5 counties. So we cover Branch, Berry, St. Joe, Calhoun, and Kalamazoo County.
Okay, and so, because this kind of goes to some of the questions that I have. So you have a client that comes in, right? And, within the presentation, you asked, that they have to have proof of social number, right? Is that proof of social number and I-10 number?
I-10, like immigration status paperwork. Do you want to talk a little bit?
So it really varies. The stance on this really varies grant per grant and where the money comes from. We have local grants that have different requirements than like the grant. Water and plumbing was something that was issued to us by the BCAEO.
Bureau of Community Action and Economic Opportunity at DHHS.
And so that comes from MCA, that's our Michigan Community Action kind of thing. They get a lot of the funding from federal dollars. So it really depends on how it is written into each grant. For these grants, if they can prove immigration status or they have some kind of documentation, we absolutely can take that in lieu of the social security number, and that's fine. It's really a case by case on what documentation they can provide, on whether we can accept that as proof of what we need. Anybody that we're not sure of, we send to them and make them tell us, well, how would you like us to proceed, and does this work? So that there's no issue when we're issuing payment or working with those clients that do have that issue at hand.
Okay, thank you for that. Do you happen to get any grants that don't have those stipulations on them? And if you do you have any funds that don't have any stipulations like that on them right now?
So those grants do work county by county usually, because those are usually typically local grants. The funding is rather limited in those because they are smaller pots of money, and The pots of money that we get come in and out throughout the year, so it really just depends on what county we're talking about, at what point in the year, and where we are at accepting applications, because those are a drop in the large bucket of funding that we do have.
If you ran into somebody when you're out in the community, I would not have a problem if you gave us a call and just kind of walked us through the situation. We could see what's available.
Okay, thank you for that. And you talked about you're trying to step up the awareness within the city of Kalamazoo. Do you know on average about how many, within the community action that's here within the city of Kalamazoo, about how many appointments you have probably per day or per week?
So within the city of Kalamazoo, it can vary. If we are doing a walk-in day, we can take up to 50 at a walk-in day, opposed to our appointment days and having 2 calendars, we're looking at more like 15 a day. And that's why we really want to get back to the walk-in days and getting to the communities where they're effective. We've done some walk-in days where we've had 2 people come all day and we're there all day, and the water provider, whether it be City of Kalamazoo or even City of Portage, we've gone to and visited. They've really blasted it out, called people who were past due or shut off. And we've had 2 people. But then we've had days where we have had more people than we could serve, and we had to quickly try to at least get their paperwork and say, okay, we're going to call you and do your appointment over the phone. We're at the end of the day, and we don't want you to have to sit here with no outcome. So it really varies. There's no method to the madness. We're kind of throwing things out there and seeing what works, and then, okay, this works. Let's keep doing this.
Okay, thank you for that. So also on here, talk about, if you could, we talked about some of the qualifications and what you had to bring in order to be eligible for assistance. So you had something on here where, everyone had to bring in household income for the previous 30 days. But then there was also a sheet on here that talked about the categorical eligibility, water bill, and plumbing. Mm-hmm. So one of my questions is, does an individual have to be, do you have to be employed? No?
No.
Okay. But if you're not employed, you have to meet one of these no, you don't?
No.
Okay.
So if we had like a household that came in, there was absolutely 0 household income, they just don't have any income at the time, then we have what's called a declaration of no income. And so the adults 18 and over would just have to sign a statement stating that we have had no income for the previous 30 days, and that's why we do not have proof of anything. If we can categorically eligible them for our services, we'd rather do that. It's less burden if we say we have 1 person in the household come in and apply and they have 3 other adult members. Now they have to go back, get that paperwork signed, bring it back. So we would prefer, if we can in that instance, to categorically eligible, but it's not required.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And then another question, again, this kind of goes back to the social number and whatnot. So does everyone in the household have to have this?
We do have to have proof of social security number of everyone in the home. If there's special circumstances where they absolutely cannot provide us proof, we can handle that on a case-by-case basis. The one thing we cannot shy away from is we do have to have some sort of proof for the head of household of the applicant. So we are able to kind of make some concessions for everyone else in the household on a case-by-case basis and ask, the state for the recommendation on that, and a lot of times they grant it. The head of household and applicant has to prove their number and have some kind of provided proof of their identification.
Okay. Just a moment, I'm looking through my notes.
No, that's okay.
Well, thank you, Amber and Laura, for your great answers on that. And then, Director Baker, I did have another question for you, if you don't mind. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
So I'm almost done. So we talk about, again, rates could possibly be going up. So individuals can come to the city and they can get on a payment plan. How many times can they get on a payment plan in a year?
They can get on a payment plan and continue on a payment plan. as long as they stay current with the payment plan. 2. So I'm hearing two times, but staying current on the payment plan is an important part of that.
Okay, thank you. So you can get on the payment plan twice per year, as long as you continually do and make the payments that you're supposed to.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to say thank you for finding the money. So I do appreciate that, and I'm all set.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Other questions?
Sure.
Vice Mayor Hess?
Sure, just one. Hey, Director Baker, thank you. CA folks, Amber and Laura, thank you. We've seen the data every year that I've been here doing this. We've seen the data that we are one of the more affordable water rates in the state. Can you talk a little bit about the difference, why we were so low to begin with, and why that happened, and then are other communities raising rates concurrent with ours so that we stay right there, so that we kind of stay on the lower end of what's happening in Michigan? And I know that's not a consolation for those who are having a hard time affording it, but this is water. This is an essential human element that we need. And so what is the difference between being low and our other communities?
Sure, and this is a bit of a more difficult question in that, community rate comparisons aren't always apples to apples, in that, when their treatment plant was built, or the size of the community, or whether that community's had a lot of early or late participation in, grant or federal assistance programs, can skew or bias, those numbers a little bit. I would say early on, like if we go back to 2017, so what's unique is that whether you're looking at the current 2024, looking at 2025, or you're looking at the 2017, looking at 2018, we share the relatively same space on this curve. We're moving from last overall most affordable water system in the state to the third most affordable water system in the state, back and forth. And you'll watch that over the year when, like in October or in July or some other fiscal year that doesn't align with Kalamazoo's, when these other communities then make their change, they'll pass us, and it's just this back and forth interaction. So there's certain things structurally that have, over the years, made the Kalamazoo water system more affordable than others. Mainly that was our relative size and continuing to be a groundwater utility. So Kalamazoo really kind of started to surpass small city status in the 1930s, had a lot of growth in the 1950s, 1960s, this all just growth and becoming a regional system until we're the size we are today. Many of these other communities, as they went through that growth curve, then became a surface water treatment plant. Surface water treatment plants are regulated completely different from groundwater treatment plants. However, when you throw in all the new regulations for lead, and you throw in all the new regulations, including not just lead surface line replacement, but optimized corrosion control, and we now have to optimize water quality at 13 different stations, not just at one. So a lot of these communities have one water plant. We have 13. So what made Kalamazoo very affordable previously was a regulatory landscape that supported a groundwater system. That regulatory landscape is beginning to change in that we are now having to do some of those same things that communities that are much larger than us have already been doing. So some of that is a little bit of catch up that we're having to play because the regulatory environment has shifted gears, so to speak, and now our ability to just pump things out of the ground, perform limited treatment, and send it out in the system isn't supported by the regulations any longer. So we've got to do more work at the treatment plants. Now this is where it's starting to be more costly for us because we don't have one treatment plant, we have 13. So that's why we're looking at consolidating. So we've got, you heard about tonight, the plan to consolidate Station 5 and Station 14. We've got more to that consolidation plan in future years' capital that will help with that. We just see regulations from PFAS and lead and everything else. In addition, just to the regulatory oversight in general is becoming tighter and tighter and tighter. And with that becomes changes in reliability. In addition to that, the changes that have occurred in weather and in storms and in our need and expectations as a system, our level of service, it may have been acceptable in 1937 to have the water system go down for 3 days because of an ice storm. That is absolutely not acceptable today. So we have to make sure that every single one of our treatment plant, and I didn't mention the 17 booster and bleeder stations that we have, and I didn't mention the 11 towers that we have that also serve as SCADA hubs, and I didn't mention the 65 lift stations that we have that also do double duty to communicate water information and wastewater information as well as service wastewater stations. All this infrastructure has to work, and it doesn't have to work just on nice days. It has to work on the bad days too. So when we throw all that into the mix, and I've told folks this before, you really can't compare even Kalamazoo as a water utility from today to even 2010. You can't compare them because the regulatory landscape and the level of service landscape has changed so dramatically in that short time period that we're two different systems, essentially.
Thank you for that lesson. I appreciate that. And hopefully we begin to understand why we have to raise rates on a regular basis. And I'm sure other municipalities are having to do the same.
Certainly.
How, out of all of those communities listed there, how many are groundwater utilities?
So just Kalamazoo and Lansing. I see East Lansing is on here, but just Kalamazoo and Lansing are, and Battle Creek, let me check that. Battle Creek is, Jackson, maybe, Dearborn, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Surface Water, Saginaw Surface Water, Flint Surface Water, Bay City Surface Water, all surface water, and some have fallen off the list, so there's more, but we took them off because they're higher than the highs.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate your work.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Praedel.
Hey, Director Baker. Thank you all for the presentation tonight as well. Really appreciate your time and helping educate us and the public about what we're looking at here. So you mentioned in the beginning of your presentation the example of the biosolids waste removal and how from 2019 to today, how that went from 4 million to 15 million. Could you give us a couple other maybe examples of significant inflationary pressures that you've seen on our system in the last 5 years?
Yeah, certainly, that's one that's very impactful. The cost for sludge disposal is up there. I mean, that percent increase is dramatic, and that hits right in the pocketbook because it's operational. Also within operational, I would say, well, across both water and wastewater, the overall cost of chemicals has gone up. Now in wastewater, we're using more chemicals than we have in the past because we're implementing additional odor treatment initiatives. So we're using hydrogen peroxide. We didn't use that in the past. We now have a $600,000 annual carbon maintenance cost that we didn't have in the past. So there's some additional, we'll call increase in level of service, and there's also those increased costs as well. On the water side of it, one of the things that we're doing with the optimized corrosion control is that we're moving from a powdered product that we would mix ourselves to create that phosphate and then dose into the system. You know, certainly there's some human error aspect of it. I'll use the analogy of Kool-Aid. I make Kool-Aid, you make Kool-Aid, my mom makes Kool-Aid, your mom makes Kool-Aid. We've got 4 different flavors of Kool-Aid, right? That's what we don't want to happen with mixing up the phosphate. So we're changing to a pre-blended, a liquid blended phosphate that comes from the manufacturer already right on spec, and then we're putting it in a system that then doses it right on spec, and we're dosing it at a higher rate. So we're using more chemical. The chemical we buy is more expensive, and then we're feeding it into the system with more precision and accuracy, and overall using more as well. So there's individual sticker prices of things that go up, and then there's actions that we are taking to use more of those products to provide an increased level of service. So those factors are at play as well. I'd also say the overall cost of construction and the overall cost of durable goods. I'm talking equipment, I'm talking vehicles, I'm talking water main. Water main pipe installed in the ground. We use 8-inch pipe. We track this stuff. We can go back in time, you know, all the way into the 1900s. But we're going to talk about just 2019, 2018, water main in the ground, 8-inch pipe in a city project. So working, you know, around other utilities on paved streets. We've got houses and driveways, everything right there. A good price would be $120 a foot. A high price would be $150 a foot. Today, a low price is $250 a foot. So that's nearly 200% increase in cost of just that line item. So when you go back to those projects and that work we're doing, it's a tremendous increase. And it's not just the big projects, you know, we've got 150 water main breaks per year. That's operational. So those costs are in our operations. So, you know, it is really our hats off to our team, the team at Management Services and Mr. Vicenzi and all the work that he does to help support us, all the work that Stantec and the Foster Group have done to help support us, all the work that UPC has done to help support us in that we're seeing, depending on the line item, up to 200% increase in costs and managing rates in a way that we can limit and minimize that impact to the ratepayer by looking at financial policy, by looking at how we utilize cash, by, you know, looking at bond terms and, you know, some of the stuff that Mr. Vicenzi and Mr. Hafner and the team at Stantec and, you know, the staff they work on. It's pretty amazing what they're doing is they're constantly trying to recalculate and come back with a better rate so that on that Stantec chart, and I cheated earlier because I looked at Commissioner Decker's notes, but on that Stantec chart, just trying to drop that from a 6 or a 7% to a 5%, that makes a huge difference for everybody. And there's a lot of great work behind the scenes that's going to make that happen.
For sure. For a lot of the regulatory and compliance pressures that have happened in recent years as well, is that also costing more for staffing and like consulting to manage and make sure that we're remaining compliant and test levels and those sort of things? Are you seeing much of an increase with that?
Yeah, I would say the biggest cost driver in that would be in our FTE. If you remember back, it was over 1 year ago when we came to the City Commission and we requested 10 additional FTE in water. And a lot of that is just the work has gotten more complex, the work has gotten harder, and there's more of the work. We've had a few examples, and we'd be happy to share them in our environmental services group that does testing for water and wastewater. Our lab, we've got a full-scale microbiology and a full-scale wet chemistry lab, and then we send off metals and VOCs and some lead and the other parameters. We don't do PFAS. We send it off as well, but we sample and package it. That work has gone tremendously up in the amount of work that we're doing and the frequency of work that we're doing. You know, we're analyzing over 3,000 parameters a year now, which pales in comparison to what we were doing in the past. So a lot of that is just direct staff work, just out there doing the work to make sure that, we're operating and managing the system every day.
I think one of the hard things for residents and talking to residents as well is it's that sticker shock we're seeing at the grocery store, we're seeing it on our bills, whatever that we're paying. One of the things that's unique about the rate increases that we're offering is, we're not seeing a rate increase on a gallon of milk that we're grabbing and then, our families putting on cereal and seeing benefit from it. It's buried in the ground. And so I think a lot of times it's harder to see something that's buried and see where you're getting value from it because it's not something that's front and center, front of mind every day. But one thing that comes to mind in particular in the last 5 years is the significant, massive investment in odor remediation that we've put forward in the community. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of impacts we're seeing related to that work as well and progress we're seeing related to that investment?
Yeah, certainly, Maya. I was going to click to the odor slide, but I might have timed out the remote here. So just a tremendous amount of work we've been doing. We really started getting hyper-focused on odors back in 2018, 2019. We implemented EnviroSuite back in 2019 to really kind of create that baseline of where we're at for community odor. And in 2019, we were, I'm going to use round average numbers here. We were at or over 20 parts per billion in our community sensors. If you fast forward till today, we've reduced the overall odor impact by over 89%. And if you look at the last few years, you see that we're kind of just kind of bouncing right around the same low levels. We've got the levels down between 0 and 2.5 parts per billion right now, depending on what sensors you're looking at. We continue to bring projects online. I just talked about the completion of the GPI pipe reroute projects. We've had several comments from folks that come to the plant to meet with us, engineers, consultants, folks from City Hall that have commented of like, wow, I don't smell anything. That project is, really working. And so every time we complete one of these projects, we take another step down in that background odor. And it's going to take a year to see it in the data because we look at large data sets over 1 year averages. And, that's something that we report every year. We're going to have another set of data that's, going to come out to show that. Next year, we should see another drop in that. We're continuing to work with Eagle. We just completed a pretty in-depth modeling study of the treatment plant as it existed in May of 2023. So that's the other thing that it's actually very positive in that a lot of times we'll work through some pretty large studies, and by the time we're ready to review the study and understand what the study's telling us, we've already completed several additional projects to where the study itself is superseded by the work we've just completed. So we'll have to do another study and then wait another year to see the results of that. That's a good thing. That's a good position to be in. And as you see on our list here, we've got additional projects that we're looking at. Again, it was when we talk about the Kalamazoo Sustainable Biosolids Alternative, and we talk about this good governance team, we've got members from the community that are on that team. We've got members from the community that are going to be at that meeting tomorrow. We've got our Northside neighborhood director is going to be there. Ms. Elizabeth Washington is going to be at this meeting tomorrow. We've got folks that are there to represent the community, that are going to represent, I don't know if you can read what these speedometer indicators are, but there's things like odor and cost. And so if you look in the room of, managers and engineers and township supervisors, that group might lean towards implementing a strategy that's the lowest cost. If you look at odor, you might have somebody like Elizabeth, Washington that's going to be concerned with odor. So it's important for us to make sure that we've got stakeholders at the table that represent the community and that represent the best project is going to be the project that satisfies all the needs, not just one.
Yeah, and that's a huge quality of life issue as well, and it's certainly not mission accomplished, but I just wanted to make sure to emphasize the fact that there are significant heavy lift issues that have been pervasive in this community for decades that you and your team are tackling on a daily basis, this being a great example that is moving the needle, as you see on the diagram, in a positive direction for our community. I really want to applaud you and your team as well. You talked a little bit about the RFI with the biosolids, but I think that's a great example of good governance because not only are you tackling a major quality of life issue that's challenging our community and plaguing our community, but you're also looking at a way to make sure that we're being good stewards of our tax dollars. And certainly when you see that we've gone from $4 million per year for waste removal to 15, that's a lot, and that's a lot to swallow. And so when people are frustrated by rate increases, that's one step that we're taking that may not be the most attractive means to do it, but it's still making a difference in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Prado. Vice Mayor Hess?
Just want to say that we'll be putting these extra flyers out outside so that people can take them on the way out from the CAA.
Thank you. Any other questions, Commissioner? All right, so a couple things. First, I just did want to say, thank you, Manager Ritzma, for supporting this great team here, making sure we have great people in place. Director Baker, really pass on to your entire team, Director Baker and Teresa, to our appreciation for the focused work that you're doing and the importance of that. It's just going back up here to thinking a little bit more 30,000 foot kind of look at this is that why do people get together in community? It's to do things together that none of us could do alone. And we are not going to be creating our own individual water systems in our neighborhoods or in our backyards. And we are doing this work together because really that's the only effective way to get it done. Otherwise, I guess we'd all go about our business and wouldn't worry about, chipping into the pot to make this happen. So that's the reason that we get together, and it is things that we don't often think about or really are second thoughts to us, how utterly, profoundly important it is to have water available and wastewater treatment available. A foundational component of civilization as it is, to be able to provide this benefit across the community, which I'm reminded again that when you talk about community health, even having a great health care system comes in second when you're talking about community health as it relates to having a good, clean water and wastewater treatment system. Definitely top of the line. I'm impressed by my team members up here. A lot of the questions are people concerned about, are people going to be able to afford this? What's going to mean to people's, everyday working people's pocketbook, and what's this going to mean for people who are really struggling to pay other bills? And I guess that just reminds me of, where the heart is for people who are sitting up here at this table. But also, I kind of feel like it's a gathering of nerds in the best possible way, to use that term, and that there's serious thought and consideration about what are we doing? What does this mean? What's the point of all this effort? And at the end of the day, this is all our system. This is not a system where someone is coming and saying, well, I got to have a 10% profit on this, all the investment and risk I'm taking, this is our system that we all own here together. And it is supported by the cost that we pay for our water and sewer services. It's paying for borrowing money, it's paying for delivering the service, paying for operations by great people that do that work around the clock every single day. Christmas, Easter, Halloween night, you name it. There's people on the job doing that, which does mean that there's folks committed to maybe missing some of their kids' soccer games or missing a rocket football game because you are out there taking care of a water break or making sure these systems are working just like you're talking about 24/7. Sometimes sitting up here is a little difficult because what are we more likely to hear about? I mean, we'll hear from people who already are, concerned about increase in the water rates. What does that mean? I'm not happy about that. Stop it. I don't want any more increases for a while. That's the kind of thing that we hear about. And you do not have 4 hours or 2 hours to sit down and go through this description of what's going on with every person that gets in touch. So I guess just to say that sitting through this presentation that you started off with and the energy that you and your team have for this work, I mean, there's just a rare group of people that are excited talking about water systems as if it was, I don't know, Detroit Lions or something. And, that's great. And we are so lucky to have people that are so excited about making sure we have a system that we're building for now and, once again, for decades and decades from now, something that is profoundly important. And that we have partners that are doing a great job, like CAA here, thank you, Laura and Amber, to help with the concerns that we have about we want to make sure people can have water available. And it's not going to make people's everyday struggle worse. So thank you for all that. So that all said, thank you from me, thank you from all of us to your focus and attention here. Tom Wheat, thank you for sitting part of the UPC and coming down to talk to us about this. Thank you to our partners here, and appreciate the good work.
Thank you.
Manager Risser.
That is it for our work session this evening.
Thank you so much. Looks like it's about 1:45. So we do have a business meeting that will start at 7. However, there's an opportunity for commissioner comments at this meeting. Any commissioner comments? All right, seeing none, we'll see you in a few minutes. We are adjourned.